Alright, so now we're going to have a look at this Splined cam drive. So looking at this drawing, you can see everything's dimensioned about this point here, really, all the main points here. So we've got this corner, that corner, this center of this circle here. So I'm going to bring my starter sketch on the origin point here and draw the circle, then place everything around it. Then we're going to extrude it until the radiuses and everything. So let's open up Inventor. We'll go to New Standard Millimeter IPT. Start a sketch on XY plane. We'll have a look at the drawing. So we've got 130 diameter circle there. So let's grab a circle. Make sure you hover above the origin there, 130 diameter. I'm going to press escape to get out of the circle mode. Double click the mouse button to zoom out. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is place the second circle. So we've got a 52 diameter circle, which is 158 to the left and 18 up. So what I can do here is just plot a circle anywhere, roughly where I want it, dimension it, 52, and we'll go here to here, it's 158, and here to here is 18. There's our two main circles there. Let's look at the drawing and see what the next point might be. So you can see we've got this line here. If I zoom into that, there's a corner point there that's been rounded off so we can see where it was. So we're going to use that. So we're going to go 78, and then we're going to go up to the line here, the x-axis here, and then we're going to go across to the circle. So the line starts at the bottom of the piece, so I'm going to hover over here. It should pick up this quadrant point. We're going to go 78. We're going to go up to that line, and it should kind of stick to it where it's put, and I'm just going to drop the line there and connect it there for now. I can dimension it afterwards, so now I'm going to put a dimension point from that point to this point, drag it off the drawing so it's not in my way, 115. So now you can see we've got two dimensions needed still. So let's have a look at auto dimension, see what it's going to tell us. So I want to know the angle and tangential constraint. So it shouldn't need to know the angle. So what I can do is delete that, and it may just not know that this has to be lined up horizontally with this point. So I can see I can grab that corner and move it around a bit. So if I go to horizontal constraint, get this point here and this point here, now we've got fully constrained sketch down the bottom. Let's have a look at the next bit. So we've got this big arc here, and if you look here, we've got a 20mm offset, and we've got a 160 and a 180mm arc, so that's a 20mm offset as well. So I'm going to draw the outside line, and offset the min 20mm. So for an arc, we can go to this one, click over here somewhere, and the radius was 180, I believe. So I'll type that in, 180. And you see it's still blue, so now we just need to tell it its tangent constraint to these two circles. So tangent here, tangent here. So now we've got a black line. So now we've got our outside lines. What we can do is come over here and go to offset. Click on that one. Let's bring that down 20. Let's do the same with this one. Bring this up 20. And just trim off the excess bits there. So we've got trim over here. Trim. So you can see now it's lost where these lines belong. So we can just go to auto dimension up here because we know they're in the right place, and we can just apply the dimensions there. So that's good as. Next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to open the drawing again, and I'm going to do these two center holes. So we've got one at 46 diameter and one at 16 diameter. And yes, everything's constrained, so we're good. Let's go to finish sketch from here. Zoom out a little bit. Go back to the drawing. And you can see here these bits are a bit recessed. You can see that in this view over here as well. So we've got two different thicknesses going on. We've got a 20mm wide and a 40mm wide. So we're going to use the extrude function for that. So come over here to extrude. And we'll do these two bits first. Do that bit and that bit. Now what's sometimes is a good idea is to go either side of the line. So with the center, the origin plane is going to be right in the middle of this thing, which would be good for constraining it to another part when we, if we were to put it into assembly. So we're going to go symmetric this time, and the distance is overall, so not either way, so 20mm overall. Put that in there, go OK. And now you can see we've lost our drawings. We can't do much with that right now. So we need to come to this browser, expand under the extrusion, and you can see it highlights the feature, and then this, what's underneath it is what it's using to make that extrusion. So if we right click on that sketch, and we can go to just turn it on, is the way I usually do it, or you can go share sketch, but visibility works just fine, and then it will automatically share it when there's two features on it. So let's go extrude again, this circle, let's make that 40 this time. And then the one thing you have to do, you can see it's shared the sketch here just by me using it for two things. So that's just saying that it's shared between this extrusion and this extrusion. So we can right click on either one of those, we can turn that sketch off. I like to keep collapsing these points here just to keep it tidy. So I usually only leave anything open that I'm working on currently, because when you get to quite a big complicated part, this list can get quite long, and then you can get a little bit lost trying to figure out where you are. So there's our basic shape. Let's look at the drawing again. So we've got 34 PCD, we've got 4 8mm holes, and 45 degrees off of straight up and down. So let's do this one first. So I'll go start sketch here, and we want to come up to this fella here, this project geometry. So this will project this onto the sketch that we're doing. So we're doing a sketch on this face, but this is going to bring this line in. So if I were to click finish sketch, I could extrude that shape out. Or if you do some measurements off here, it will automatically project it anyway. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a construction line, and this is just so I can get my angle. So I'm going to go line here, I'm going to go straight up from that point, down to that point, across to that point, escape. Then I'm going to dimension it there, there, 45 degrees, just to get my first hole position. Let's have a look at the PCD, it was 34. So let's draw a circle, 34, like that. Now I can turn construction line off, because this is going to be the hole I actually want to extrude through. Come over to circle, where those two lines meet, do 8. So you can see we've got a 8mm circle here, it's all fully constrained down the bottom. So that one's good to go. Let's do a project geometry on this larger circle here and the inner one. Let's have a look at these slots that are going around this inside of this part. So you can see we've got one slot that lines up with this line, so that's where I would start with. So you always want to pick one that's easy, and then the spacing for these will work it out in the pattern part. So if we can draw the first slot, then we can just do a pattern and it will space it out for us. So I've got an 80mm diameter to the outside of those, so I'm going to draw 80mm circle, and the slots are 6mm wide. So I'm just going to go here, I'm going to go circle, make sure I hit that point, 80. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line from here. I'm going to draw a line from here to here, and a line from here to here, and I'm going to tell it it's 3mm either side of this. So I can go 3, and then I could just tell it it's 6mm away from that one, 6, and that's all I need to do for that. So we'll go finish sketch. Now I'm going to cut that hole and that slot out. So we'll use extrude, and we're going to go through all and cut. Zoom in a bit till this bit highlights green and this bit highlights green. And we're going to go OK. Now what we can do is look at our drawing again. So we've got 4 holes here, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots on this part. So now we can do a pattern of this feature. So if we come over here, and we've got circular pattern here, let's click on that. First thing it's asking is the feature, so the hole is the feature, so just hover over it till it just shows that hole. I'll show it either side. Rotation axis, so if I click on that button and I click on this, make sure you click on the inside of it or around part of it. So it's automatically come up with 6 with 360 degrees for the fill. So we only want 4, so I'll change it to 4. It's going to fill up 360 degrees with 4, so each one's going to be 90 degrees to each other. Now we can do the same thing down here. We can go to circular pattern, feature, this comes up first, click on that part, rotation axis, so make sure you're in rotation axis because it'll just stay in feature. We're going to put that there, and we're going to tell it we want 7 of them. So there we go. So now we've got our 2 features. Now let's have a look at this drawing here. So we've got all sorts of radiuses here. So what I'm going to do is I've got the drawing printed out next to me, so I'm not going to keep going back and forth with it. I'm just going to come into here, and I'm going to do this feature called fillet, and I'm just going to pick my way around them. So this one here is 14. This one here, go back to fillet, it's 5. This one here is 12. This one here is 10. This one here is 12. So what I could do is, if you got fillets the same size, you can click on all the joints that have that same size fillet, but there's only a couple here that have the same, so it's not too critical. But if you were doing the same size fillet all the way around the part, you just click on the fillet and you click on all the joints you want to fillet, and that would be all you'd need to do. So this one here, we've got a 20mm radius. And then we've got an 8 inside here. Five in here. Let's have a look, see if we're missing anything. So all our fillets are done there. Next thing we're going to do is materials are in as mild steel, so we're going to come up here to the material. Drop that down, and we're going to find steel mild. So that'll just help calculate the weights, which I'll show you in a minute. So that's our part drawn up. Let's save it. I like to go save as. There I've got my folder. Just click on that. I'm going to right click and add a new folder in here for the Splined cam drive. Double click. Save. Now I want to show you why it's important to set the material type. So we could go File, Properties, Physical over here, and we could go Update. So that's going to tell us this part here is going to be 4.906 kg, the area, the volume, center of gravity, all these things. So they can be quite handy to know, depends what you're doing with it. Especially if you're trying to design something, say a bracket or something that needs to be as light as possible. What we can do is do some stress analysis on it, and then we can chop away bits that are not necessary, and then come back and check the weight afterwards and make sure it is still strong enough at the same time. So now we've got our part. Going to make sure I Control S, save it as it is, close. Now it's time to put it on the paper. So let's go to File, New, T-Picking a drawing. Let's bring our base in here. just come up there, good. Open. So the first thing I like to do is put in my isometric view in the top corner just to make sure you can see what it is. The options I want to turn on here are shaded for the isometric. Display options, I'll come over here, make sure tangent edges is on, and that's just going to show points like outside of the radiuses, the fillets here. That's just handy for, it just gives us a bit more detail so you can see what you're actually doing. Now I'm going to come over here and go back to base. And I'm going to pick a view size that fits nicely in the drawing. So 1:1 will be good for this one. It's quite big, so that'll be fine. See, the option is set to hidden line here. I don't want the hidden lines on this one. I want to remove the hidden lines, so I'll go to that one there and then go OK. Let's put this over here in the corner. And I'm also going to need a view either from the top or the side that's going to show me the different thickness of the web. So what I might do for this example is I might project it up to the top there. And there we have, that's going to show us more detail. So let's go over to dimensions. The first thing I'll dimension is this top bit. I'll dimension the web. 20. And I can come over here, and if I dimension this part, the dimensions will go all the way along like this. So it's just fairly obvious that it's 20 and 40. Now we'll go around and dimension this bit. So we want enough dimensions that we could make it. So let's sort out these patterns first. So what we can do is come to this one here, centered pattern. Click on that. Find the center point of the pattern, which is the center of the circle. And then start going around all the holes. Background to start. Right click, create. Then what we want to do is put a center point in this one. So I'm going to do a center point and click on the outer circle so it does a nice big center point all the way out there. And we need to know where these corners started. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to go to place views and start a sketch. Come down, project the geometry. So project that line there, and that line there, and that line there. Go to your line feature. Let's zoom right in there. Grab the endpoint. Straight across until it clicks into place. Escape. Line again. Endpoint here. And just make sure you stay on the same angle. It kind of clicks onto it. You can see the little tangent there. So that's going to show us where that point was before we radiused it. Let's do the same down here. You can see it's not quite picking up its angle for whatever reason that is. So let's just put it there. I'll press escape, and then what I'm going to do here to make sure this is on the straight with this one, it's parallel with this one, I'm just going to put a parallel constraint here, click on that line and that line, and now it's brought itself around parallel. And let's just trim off the excess here, so trim that off, trim, 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 finish the sketch. Now you can see it's like a solid line. It's a bit lighter weight than the outside of the actual part. So there's a few things you can do with that. If you're happy with that, that's fine. If you wanted to, you can do what I've done on the example drawing, is I can come over here, make sure I've got everything dropped down, and it'll be sketch 1 here. right click, and we can go to properties, line type, and we can do it as a dashed line. We can even change the color or how thick it is. We don't need to do that. I'm just going to do it a dashed line so people can see clearly that it's a different thing. So now we've got those points. Now we really just need to go around and dimension everything. So all you have to do is go into dimension, click on the points. So we've got 78 for that one. And you can see we've got the primary unit. So primary unit, we can change it depending on how much tolerance we want. So 0 is fine for this because we're not actually going to make it. It's just an example. Or 1 decimal place is alright as well. So I think it's set to 1 decimal place as a standard, so we'll just keep it on that for this one here. And there's not enough room to really get my dimensions in under here, so I'm going to just drag this view up a tiny bit. And start doing some other dimensions. So we've got this one to here. Let's go OK. We've also got this one to the center of this point. So run out of room down below, so I'll put that up the top. And another important dimension is the difference between the heights here. So that line to that line. You can see it sort of come up as a dimension straight between the two. So we'll drag it off to the side here. So we'll go out there, will do. Let's dimension the size of the circles. Now we'll dimension this PCD line now that we've created before. So I'll put that 34, and I'm going to go over here to text and just go space P.C.D. Press escape to get out of your dimension there and drag this back onto the drawing, so that's good. Now what we can do is dimension these holes as well. So just dimension 1, and that would be fine. You could put typical after that, but I think it's fairly obvious from the drawing what it is. And now we'll dimension this pattern. So if I come close enough to the line itself actually highlights, you see like that, rather than the points. If we get the line to highlight, it's going to give us a radius there, radius of 40. So that's good. And what else do we need to know? We need to know the inside diameter there, so let's go to this one. So we can just leave it as radius. I think on the drawing I've handed out, I've changed them to diameter, but it doesn't matter as long as it, you could draw it from the information you've given. Let's do dimension of this line to this line is 6. That'll be fine there. So that's almost all the dimensions we need. We just need to go around and dimension all those radiuses. So one thing that can be a bit annoying about dimensioning a radius is it's going to put that line over there to the center. So it's probably alright for a lot of them. But the bigger ones, it can put a really big line across your drawing and can kind of confuse you a bit. It's always better to try and keep these lines off the part if you can. So I'm going to put this down here. I'll put this within the part just because there's not much room. Same with this one. Got that radius. Let's put one here. Here. There. And see, that's the big one there, so that's going to put a line way out to the center point, which is actually in your title block. So what I generally do, if I know what the radius is, I'll just do a text leader here. I'll click on it, left click again, right click, continue, and I can do R80. So that just tidies it up a wee bit. You can tell from here, see how the line doesn't go underneath it, it goes to the middle. You can tell it's a text thing. So if you did change anything on the actual part drawing, the dimensions will update with the part, but the text leaders won't. So that's the downside to doing that. But sometimes you need to do it just because it's going to take up too much space. So let's do the dimension between these two parts. We'll do 20. And let's do the same thing over here. So we'll do a dimension between the two, like that. So that should be enough dimensions to make the part now. Just have a quick look over your one, make sure you've got enough dimensions there, or just dimension the same as the example one that I've given you. Let's fill out the title block now. Scale was 1:1. Material, mild, steel. Part. And make sure you put your name on it. And I'm just going to move this a little bit over. It's a bit more centered. So that's the drawing file done. So we'll save this as Splined cam drive. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to export it to PDF. And it should stay the same name if you've saved the drawing there. So let's export it to PDF. And close out of it. I'm going to go to my folder. And now we've drawn it, I need you to put these three files into the Moodle Dropbox. So that one, PDF, IDW, and IPT.